everybody, and welcome to Svetlin Tries to Convince You to Play Shadowrun for about an hour and a half. We're doing it in the spirit of festivities as we head into a bright future of Thanabus Cup-filled weeks. We decided to give inspiration, which is a word that will come and play later, to everybody in the community by doing another one of these. Welcome to D&D Cast 2. The conceit behind this came with one of our guests, the community manager, GameMaster. Say hi.
Hello there.
And, of course, returning guest Felp, who I am terrified of doing any variety shows without. Say hi, Felp.
Hello.
Hell yes. So, the idea came from GameMaster's incredibly deep, let's say, role-playing experience. As he mentioned on his Meet the Team podcast, he's been playing role-playing games of multiple varieties for, decades at this point? So there is no way I cannot have him on for a D&D podcast. And as everybody who plays any type of tabletop game can attest, one of the most fun things about tabletop role-playing is sitting down around the digital campfire and telling stories with your friends. So this is what we're going to be doing for the foreseeable future, and you are trapped here with us. Like and subscribe. Ahem. So, gentlemen, let us start with a few sentences about your D&D experience.
Man, alright, so as the people who enjoyed the, or watched or listened to the first D&D cast, I'm not as much of a veteran in D&D as our guest Thor here is. But no, my experience with D&D and could probably be summarized in it's just stupid fun with references, memes, and the occasional really deep and dark storytelling.
Storytelling.
Very succinct.
Yeah, that's a good one. So, yeah, that's right. You're trapped here with us, and I have been trapped in the world of D&D for almost 2 decades. I think.
What a
that's
segue!
Crazy. Yeah, and and it's not something I want to leave, but I also don't think I can leave it. So I actually didn't start with D&D. I actually started with the highest difficulty of just wanting to make my own rule set and own game to start off with. Being only 10 years old or 9 years old, that's what we tried to do. And
That's
it was
respectable.
absolutely madness because it wasn't balanced. It was broken in every way.
You learned
And
to
there
swim
was
by
characters-
drowning.
Yeah,
It's the rule of cool.
there was characters who could one-shot bosses, and there were some
course.
characters who couldn't. Yeah, and and the way we made the world was just, what do you want to play? Okay, you want to play something like a Viking, so I'm gonna make something like a Viking for you. Okay, what do you want to play? You want to play someone who does someone with elements, so we're gonna make an elementalist for you and stuff. And it was absolutely broken. Then we transitioned into D&D 3rd edition, I think it was, and then 3.5, and then we didn't touch the 4th edition because I didn't want to. And then we played Pathfinder, we played Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, and Cthulhu, and Vampire the Masquerade. And I think the last 3 of these stuck with us for a long time. But yeah, I've been DMing for quite a long time, and I've been on a serious note, on a not so serious note, but I ended up pretty much where you talked about, Felp, focusing on storytelling and immersion, and being also a writer. I aim to do my campaigns in a way that it feels like I'm writing a book, but the players have the command of writing their own characters inside the book. That's how I aim to see my campaigns right now.
It is interesting that you mentioned that, because that sort of rolls nicely into my D&D experience, where I have been playing since 2012, but I only got, serious about it in 2015, I believe, or was it mid-2016, one of the two. And our DM is an aspiring writer. He's actually doing a master's in literature of sorts. And we are playing in one of the worlds he created, and he has pretty much the same approach as you do, where he is drawing inspiration for his writing from the things we do. And my, RPG experience is mostly that. It's playing his campaign, which we just wrapped up after 5 years. And on the side, I am really, like really into Shadowrun. That's why I started the podcast the way I did. And that is slowly blossoming into something fantastic. And hopefully in D&D Cast 3, I'll have more Shadowrun stories to share, but I'm already loaded up with some. So D&D is nothing without the characters, whether DM created or player played. And apropos of that, I would like to ask you, gentlemen, what your favorite class and race is in D&D. I believe Felp has already touched upon that, but you can refresh your memory.
Sir. So, yeah, whenever I play a game, whenever I think strategy, whenever I look at something, it's a problem to be solved, right? It's not an impossibility. It's just a problem that needs solving. And the best class that embodies this is the wizard, or rather, the elven wizard, because they just get the most options. I like to see it as a magical Batman of sorts.
Very aptly put, yeah.
And you know, even if you don't have a spell that specifically covers the interesting scenario that you encountered, with a little flirting with the DM and maybe pushing the rule of cool a little bit, you can get away with a lot of things, and that it really does make for some amazing scenarios.
Maybe some bribing.
Yeah, maybe some bribing too. Yeah, for sure. I've managed to bribe the DM with my artistic skills a few times. But yes, so definitely the wizard and the elven wizard specifically. That's a favorite class and race combination.
Nice. What about you, Thor?
It's something to do with magic, but it's more something to do with divine magic. I find myself coming back to the paladin again and again and again. And since the Aasimar came out, I like playing the Aasimar paladin. And the Aasimar is a snowflake race, but I like being a snowflake when you get the chance to play D&D, because I often do not get the chance to play D&D because I get the chance to DM D&D. So when I get the chance to play, I love to be a snowflake character.
What is that paladin? Just full on lawful good, I assume?
Yeah, in the older editions, that was kind of like a given that you had to be lawful good. I think nowadays, with a lot of homebrew and different way of playing D&D, you often get to do something like maybe lawful neutral, or maybe even lawful evil, and be an oathbreaker. But I like playing lawful characters, so it fits me, and I like harnessing the power of my god. I like flaunting religion. I like being extreme in my zealous devotion when I play the games, and it's funny because it's a direct opposite of what I am. I am an atheist, and I am interested in religion as a story-based element because I like stories.
Yeah.
But when I play D&D, I go all out, and I love the paladin.
Hell yeah. I'm boring in a sense where I haven't played way too many characters. And by default, the class and race I gravitate most towards is my favorite character. Good old Callus, the one-legged knight. The conceit behind him, as I mentioned in the previous cast, was to create a character who is mechanically very simple, so I can focus on role-playing almost exclusively so I can learn how to roleplay effectively. And so, again, by default, my favorite class is a sword and board fighter human, which is so boring.
Very creative.
Yeah.
Wizard fighter and paladin. Let's go.
Yes, we got a real party on our hands here.
I'm not
Can we hire a rogue?
Not again. I'm playing a
Rogue,
cleric.
don't worry, I heard the new wizard subclass can cover sword fighting.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, you see, that becomes a bit of a problem here, because when you've only been in 3 campaigns,
Yeah.
granted, these have been long-running campaigns, though. Yeah, I mentioned last time around, I've been playing the one campaign for about 3 years, and it's finished now, and we've started a new one. And between the current one and the one that we finished, I think I I do like this new one more, and it's purely because you're more experienced. Like you've taken what you've learned. Both you and the DM have taken what you've learned from the previous campaign, and now you've started a new one. You have the set goal, and you're trying something different. Instead of being the wizard, I'm trying a barbarian. Because again, as kind of touching on what Svetlin mentioned there, with you want to play simple things and then learn a role play. I'm feeling the same here a little bit. But also, instead of messing around with spells, I'm more curious, what if I take the more an approach towards crafting, using the items in my inventory, using bombs, using alchemy, or using rope in creative ways, using the items at my disposal, just mundane items in creative ways, and how to create, solutions to these problems. And this campaign is all about exploration as well, and it's exploring, sharding a new world, essentially. We're going to this outer continent, and we're establishing a colony, and we're going to help, essentially, map out this entire continent. And there are tribal people living here, and it's all about getting to know them and making sure that we don't just bulldoze over them, early European style coming to America. That we actually, come in here, we come in peace, and we play the Portuguese card. So it's a lot of exploration, new foundations, almost a city building sim, where we make decisions for our settlements. And I really like that larger scale picture of having proper downtime where you get to do stuff that really affects the world around you. And that's not something we had a lot of in my previous campaign, and so that's why I'm really liking this campaign that I'm currently doing here, all about exploration and building and colonizing.
That is fantastic. Thor, what about you? You've been very put upon as the designated GM. Nevertheless.
It is very much campaigns that I have DM'd for and not played in, who are my favorite campaigns, but I'll just quickly segue back to my previous podcast, where I said that Witcher was my favorite game, and just quickly add that if you haven't checked out, then it's not new anymore, but the Bloodhunter class from Matt Mercer, that's also a very exquisite class in D&D, and one that's very quickly becoming, maybe surpassing the Paladins, just to throw it out there if you like The Witcher. But I have a world that I have DM'd in many times, and it's not my own world, and it's Curse of Strahd. It's built on the base of Dracula and Van Helsing, and it's a world I am very intrigued in, and it fits my way of narrating very well. So narrating in that world is always one of my favorite campaigns, but my absolute most favorite campaign is actually my newest campaign, which is kind of funny when you have DM'd for such a long time. But it's just, let me just quickly describe some of it. It's 5 young characters who started out actually as teenagers in an academy for adventurers, in an academy called Drago's Mira in my own world called Arcania. And there are 4 houses in the academy. There are the Silver Ravens, there are the Blue Lions, the Golden Deer, and the Black Eagles. And it's a little Hogwarts-like in its narration. Yes, it's actually mixed between Hogwarts and Witcher. That was my ideas when I went into this, because half of the playtime is at the academy and half of the playtime are on school missions, which is often monster hunts and blood hunts and going out there and tracking and stuff, because they are part of the Silver Ravens, and each of these houses have their own faculty or specialty, and the Silver Ravens are kind of these monster hunters or monster trackers, at least. And it's my favorite campaign for many reasons. It's the best cast of players I maybe have ever had. Some of them are really old friends that I've known for also decades, who have come back, and it's an amazing campaign.
Nice.
We've played for 2 years, and we are just reached level 10.
Oh, wow.
All right, that's a big milestone.
Yeah. That's on par with what I did. And I mean, my favorite campaign is, just to break it up. So I believe I talked bit about that 5-year campaign last time around, and trust me, we're gonna have more stories about it on this cast. My favorite, absolute favorite one, without a doubt, that I DM'd in, is the current Shadowrun campaign I'm running. For the uninitiated, Shadowrun is a cyberpunk magic nightmare taking place in the late 2070s, where the world is drastically different from ours, in that magic returned to the modern world in around 2011, and everything just went to hell in a handbasket. So it's very much all the cyberpunk tropes everybody knows and loves, combined with mysticism, and it's nuts. And since I'm getting my feet wet in that campaign, I DM for 3 of my friends who play, oh god, here we go, a homeless wizard who used to work in the Ministry of Magic, who is incredibly powerful and hates the government. A mafia boss.
It just gets better.
Yep, who operates, I believe, a block of crime, including a bar and a bordello. So he's essentially one of those porno management games on legs.
Classic mafia boss.
He is also a decker, meaning that he can connect to the Shadowrun's version of the internet, the Matrix. And he is very high class and incredibly violent. And he is amazing. And then, which one of these doesn't belong? A former Russian East VR esports player who got really sick of being the best at shooting people digitally, so he decided to try his hand at Shadowrunning, which is future mercenary-ing, by just buying some guns and seeing if the skills are translatable. They seem to be. And this is not a critique on like violent video games, it just is. So these idiots have to navigate this world that I am taking, just workshopping into something insane. They are working for Disney at the moment. It's pure chaos, and they ruin everything I do, as we will get to later in the cast.
Oh my god.
So that's my favorite campaign that I've DM'd in.
One could imagine. What a bunch of characters.
And yes, the Russian character speaks with a very thick Russian accent. Thank God we're all Eastern European. So, apropos of that, what is your guys' favorite character you either played or DM'd for? I will accept no questions, thank you.
The hype is real.
Yeah, how to top that? Okay, favorite character that I played. Well, I haven't DM'd, so definitely played. I mean, yeah, I'm really liking the new character that I am playing here, the barbarian. His name's Isaac Dilrock. He's a mason, and he actually he experienced the bits and pieces of the last act of the previous campaign. So he's been on the outskirts. He's been taking the not the brunt of the force, but he's been taking some of the force from the final battle. So he's a bit weary, battle hardened. But he is this classic old man in the village mason that's skilled at one thing, and he has no social skills to speak of, which leads to very direct and interesting conversations to move things forward. And he's very crafty. He's very practical.
Yeah.
So I made sure that he's always got a tool for the job. He's very much looking for the job and whatever the next goal ahead is. But something kind of sparked in him that I'm playing with here in the in the fight against the hordes of the evil BBEG, in his little backstory, the little prelude, and that is he doesn't want his work or the people that he's built these houses and fortresses to protect. He doesn't want those people to live in harm's way. And so he's kind of made this life goal of creating the ultimate defense system or fortress or castle, just the most impregnable defense ever. And that's kind of building his character forward, as he needs to overcome his inability to interact with people in a more civilized manner. So building character, talking with nobles, and coming to this new land, he needs to show his skill in his field of work in order to attract other people of that trade to join him in furthering his goals. So he's kind of forced to create this guild of highly skilled craftsmen. And that's all building upon his very, very rocky foundation of leadership. But all he may have a crass attitude, but he's the right man for the job. And it's just nice to get him to slowly but surely develop this more sociable attitude and learning to direct people in a more civilized manner than, oh hey, you go over there, hammer that thing in.
I like that actually.
Oh, layers. Beat that, Thor.
Yeah, layers were like onions.
I don't think I can, because I'm not as good at creating characters when I play myself as I am as DMing, I'll say. And I won't pick a favorite player having DM4, because I know a lot of my players is going to listen to this. So I'm going to pick one of my own favorite character I have played, because that seems more fair. And I have played a paladin one, a vengeance paladin. Who was an Asimar, also segue to previous answers, and it was by the time where you suddenly got allowed, in quotation, to be a neutral paladin. So I picked a lawful neutral paladin, so a paladin that wasn't necessarily good nor evil, but had very strong footage and ground, and was maybe all right with agreeing with lesser evil to defeat the greater evil, but was very single-mindedly focused on defeating the greater evil. She was called, and yes, it was a she, and she was called Cassandra Aelin Marigold. She was a very strong, high temperament paladin who had this kind of smite makes right attitude. And very stereotypical character, actually, like her village got raged by a red dragon, and as some might know, a red dragon often leaves one survivor to spread the fear and the story of this red dragon's territories. It's a very stereotypical story, and her arc is based on finding this ancient red dragon and kicking its ass. But on the path, she has this very Anakin Skywalker attitude to evil, and she becomes, in the purpose of fighting evil, she almost gets absorbed by evil herself. Because it's so strong emotion, and she's a very emotional character, being a paladin and having all this on her shoulders.
It's like sand. It gets everywhere.
Stop it. Don't undercut his emotional outpouring by quoting episode 2.
And for example, if she walks through a city and there's so much like evil actions, or it's burned down, or she takes it on her shoulders and she tries to bear this cross, and obviously that doesn't work, as most of us will know from life. And it doesn't work for her also. So it's very Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader like story I got inspired by. We
all seem to have a penchant for put upon characters, because my favorite one, the aforementioned Callus, what was his last name? Callus Dargon. I haven't used his last name since the first session, and I keep forgetting what it was. So Callus is... I'm going to try and give a succinct description, because 6 years of history have turned him into something entirely different. But he started life as a soldier in the Queen's army of the world we inhabited. And he had severe PTSD due to having lost his leg in a chimera attack. So the chimera straight up bit his leg off.
Brutal.
And that instilled in him a just complete fear of dying.
Understandable.
And to the point where he was chaotic good, but he would, if a challenge was too great, he would just immediately like finagle a reason to pussy out. And throughout the course of the campaign, because he had a peg, I really wanted to have like a peg leg mechanic where I could just attach stuff to my leg, kind of like Bionic Commando, but with a leg. And that developed really cool. At the end of the campaign, I had a liquid Terminator leg, which would like shoot out spikes. It was awesome. But Callus's whole deal was that he was very he crash lands on an island after a shipwreck, and his entire like platoon of friends and soldiers is dead as far as he knows. He is alone. He has like one thread he is hanging on to his mission, and from there is like 5 years of character development to where now he is the lord of the island. He's accepted the burden of leadership. He doesn't have to limp everywhere. It's very inspirational, which directly contrasts with how horrible I am at rolling dice, which is the next topic. And I would like to illustrate just how miraculous it is that a just human dude with a sword and board has survived all of this, where like 2 clerics, barbarians, timeless entities have died. This idiot has somehow stayed alive, and I'm pretty sure I have the GM's favor. This is one of but the many occasions where my dice have failed me. In one of the final encounters of the campaign, we are fighting this massive skeleton dude. Imagine like King Leoric from Diablo 3. That, but like a very serrated, huge blade that's like 7 feet tall. So I'm the tank, quote unquote, and I'm terrible at it because I still have a remainder of the I don't want to get hit mentality. So our cleric just does everything because he's the best. But in that fight, for some reason, the GM's like, you tank now. So I'm like, sure, bud, I have all this stuff. And I started just getting wailed upon. The crowning moment of just complete moronity, if that is even a word, was when the Skeleton King started wailing on me. I keep blocking his hits. And he's like, that's not gonna work. So he picks me up. And so I failed the grapple check to not get grappled. And then every turn, he would casually hold me at arm's length and start just stepping with the serrated blade. He hits me dead on the AC, which was 23. Every time. It was either 23 or 25, never above that. And considering he had like +9 to attack, decent, but like to hit my AC every time, Jesus, man. So he like stabs me. I almost die. He stabs me again. I die. I get healed. I snarl at him. He cuts my throat. I get revived again. Snarl at him. Cuts my throat. And that was the entire fight. I tanked, but every single one of those rolls was either me failing a saving check, me failing a grapple escape check, or me getting hit directly on my AC, which is awful. And that's my life as that character.
Jeez. I mean, you have to wonder, in-game, like in-universe, getting knocked out or getting killed so many times and then just being brought back repeatedly, you have to wonder what that does to one's mental health.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's something that thankfully we don't have to explore since the campaign's over. But poor guy, man. Like, goddamn. Felp, you got anything resembling this garbage?
The worst run of dice, huh? So this one's a little spookier. So we had a session in this new campaign that we're playing, the exploration one, where we're charting new path, mapping out this new continent. We get to this new trading town, where we're supposed to meet the king of the town or the province, and he's apparently in peace talks with some really pesky barbarians that we really don't want to, and the barbarians are enchanting the king to go along with their horrible plans, all that good stuff, yada yada. And some really, really bad stuff happens. The king gets kidnapped, and then a whole lot of roleplay ensues where we need to keep convincing the town that we're good people, we're here to help, we're gonna get your king back, just let us rule over the town, we're just trying to prepare you, right?
Oh no.
And so this is where the city builder sim kind of that I mentioned kind of should come into action here, right? But for this entire session, right? We started doing this at the start of the session. The session ran for about 4 hours. Every single roll that we made ended up with a 6 somewhere inside of it. Either it was the natural roll or it was the result. And it was just, we were just rolling skills. So no like 2d8 to hit or, for attacking for damage. No. This was just d20s across the board for rolling persuasion, performance, whatever, wisdom, anything. Every single roll for those hours during that entire session was just 6s.
That is cursed. I do not believe you.
And it's halfway into the session, we're like, should we stop?
Should we call it a day?
Should we just call it a day and go home? Like, is there
a god that's fucking with us?
Are we fine? Like, is the universe trying to tell us something? Should we get out of here? Should we just book it?
A curse.
Yeah.
You can only roll 6s.
And I mean, the only thing we could, I mean, it's not like we have any weighted dice or anything. I mean, we're playing online on Roll20. I mean, it's like, what?
Was there a bug?
Yeah, it must be a bug in Roll20, but no, like anything else is just like the next day or the next session. It's perfectly fine again. It's not. It was just
a developer. A developer wanted to prank you guys.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no. So that was it was a rough time trying to convince the town that we are respectable individuals and we know what we're doing with all these low rolls. It was very. It was a bit of a spectacle, and very cursed indeed.
Thor, for contrast, I believe you only remember good rolls.
Yes, please.
Let's take some good rolls, but I guess it's good rolls on my side, the DM. So I guess it's haunting bad rolls.
Yeah, that's really bad rolls for the players.
So let's. I have a cursed dice as well, and it's cursed for the players because it rolls really really good. It's a violet die, and I use it when I really need to bring the hammer down upon the party because it's really good. And we tested it, and it isn't loaded. At least it doesn't seem to be in a way that goes towards the natural 20s, that it just keeps rolling. So it's a bit cursed and haunting because we are actually in Curse of Strahd, and it's in an orphanage. And they have lost one of their players already. They are 3 players. They are trying to hunt a creature down, which can only be seen by children. It's invisible to all others, just passively. And they are being helped, segue to which again, by a godling. That is a child, it's an infinite child, right? Because it lives forever, a godling. So it can see this creature. So it's trying to point them out and throw rocks at this creature. And the barbarian, the bard, and the rogue is trying to battle this creature. And it starts by charming the barbarian, because that's always a fun thing to charm a barbarian. That's like, oh, you have a barbarian, you have a Hulk? Let's use that Hulk against you.
Genius.
That's all, and he fails. Yeah, I think he actually rolls a natural 1 or something.
Oh,
and Fink just going crazy, and the players start rolling natural 20s. I think every player actually rolls a natural 20 that combat round, and everything is going good. And then I rolled 3 natural 20s in a row.
Oh no!
With the same die, and
I hate you.
And it is in a row, and the first one kills the rogue. And the second kills the bard, because it's an attack that is 4d6, so a crit is 8d6, and they are level 4, level 3 at this point.
Oh, dude, you have like no HP.
Yeah, so they just die. And the third crit almost kills, I think it's the godling that's pointing out this creature. Man. It's going really, really bad until the barbarian, because I give him a final save, because he just sees his friends die. He finally breaks out of the charm, and he kills this creature, which was actually not a tank. It was a very fragile creature, right? Because it's invisible and sneaky. They were kind of like, it was a fun session, but they were really, really feeling my die there, I think.
Alexa, pull up the definition of fun. Oh, you're a monster.
Fun is subjective.
But they're all back now, but they kind of made their sacrifices of coming back. To be fair, the rogue is a vampire right now, in the process of becoming a full vampire, so it was easier for him to come back, but still.
Yeah, that's fair.
As you do. Well, one thing that can help with horrendous dice rolls is inspiration points, which is a topic suggested by Thor. For those not in the know, the inspiration point system is essentially your dungeon master giving you a die. I believe it was an 8-sided die, a D8, which you can use. You were rewarded that die for a cool action by the discretion of the DM, and at any point you can use it to supplement a roll, right? So let's say you roll poorly on a knowledge check, you can take your D8, you can roll it, and you can add that result to your roll, so you can succeed potentially. So since it was your brainchild, Thor, what is the best use of inspiration points you've ever seen?
So we have actually gone back now because we play 5th edition D&D to just I have on my GameMaster screen, I have these flips that I can flip up and down depending if they have inspiration or not, and you can only have one inspiration, but you can also give inspiration to a player. So we have two ways of using this inspiration. You can use it on yourself, but you can also, in the spur of the moment, if you think a player is doing something awesome, you can give that inspiration to him and lose it. And then he has to use it for that specific role, so it's in a moment giving it to that player. To help each other, and it just enables the table to stay extra much aware, because there's always a moment where they can give this inspiration points, and they need to stay attuned to be able to find these moments. But we actually don't do it with D8s right now. We do it with D20s, and you gain advantage or disadvantage. That's a 5th edition rule to make it more simple. But yeah, I think just generally, when my players who are educated in doing stupid things, if their character would do that stupid thing, I've actually informed them, please do that stupid thing if that's what you think your character would do. And so this system kind of helps that, because then I will absolutely hand out disadvantage because they're doing a thing that's very, very stupid or persuading a person in a way that won't work 99% of the time. And then a player will be like, but it's so awesome, inspiration. And then suddenly it's a straight roll instead of a disadvantage roll. And that has helped them multiple times. And it's just a way of connecting the dots between playing your character even though it's not efficient, the DM punishing you for that because of mechanical rules, and then the players still enabling it because of roleplay. And for us, it just all comes together. So it's more of a general thing. Maybe you have something more specific.
I do, but I want to hear Phelps first.
Aww. So, it's a good thing Thor touched upon this, the general use of inspiration here and what it could be used for. And, I'm not a terribly creative person when it comes to using inspiration points. But the more surefire way I've been able to use them, or that I've thought of using them, is to help me get out of sticky situations, or to augment certain skills, or other things that my character can do in order to turn the tides, but maybe without the drawback. Or maybe with the drawback, depending on how big the deal is. So specifically in an event that unfolded in this new campaign here, playing the Barbarian, the Path of the Beast subclass, which is a very fun subclass. It lets you transform into one natural weapon out of 3, which is the dual claws, where you're basically dual wielding short swords, 1d6. The bite, which is basically a lifesteal ability, and the tail, which is a defensive, which lets you roll a die and add that to your AC, as well as it's a 10 feet, it's a reach attack as well. And so with this, the party was ambushing an enemy fortress, and everything's burning. We had set fire to everything during the night. People were running around, they were screaming and trying to rouse the reinforcements to come deal with the intruders, right? And so we quickly got overrun, and we got outnumbered by the enemy forces. The party got split up in different sides of this enemy camp, and me, the Barbarian, I get knocked unconscious while raging. Now, this is important because I used the inspiration point to help me win the death save to get back to 1 HP, and help me force myself to enter rage one more time over the limit use. And now the DM likes to really play around with evil side effects to when you do something past your character's limits. And what I did here was I used rage one time too many. And he basically said, yeah, okay, you're now transformed into all of these 3 natural weapons. So you got claws, you've got the bites, you've got the tail as well. So he's a full-on monster at this point.
Oh boy.
And he is, since he just got back to life because he got knocked unconscious and basically killed, he is in a very feral animal state. And so I just get to play a beast that's out of control, jumping around the camp and just ripping and tearing and slicing and skewering people, and finally reuniting with the rest of the party and just being this dog that just does hit and run tactics to chip away at the big boss of the camp. And it was just like crazy. I did not expect this to come, like with the drawback of this, because after it was done and the rage was supposed to end, the transformation didn't end. I was stuck in transformation because I'd overexerted myself. So I was, well, you know, for the foreseeable future, permanently stuck in a negative intelligence, the animal, you know, transformed body where I was just overly aggressive and could not really be controlled. So they had to get the party shaman to use animal handling to tame the character. Yeah.
Supreme.
They had to basically had the shaman animal handle my character to get it under control and basically keep it as the party's pet.
You went full Wolverine.
Full Wolverine.
Who wouldn't want a barbarian pet? That's an awesome pet.
Yeah, like a barbarian Path of Beast pet. So for like the 2 coming sessions, I was playing with like 8. No, with like 8 intelligence. That's just a bare minimum. Could barely could barely function. And with the party shaman as like the master, you know, kind of like he turned into Beastmaster for 2 sessions.
That's actually so awesome. I really want to play the barbarian Path of the Beast, so it's so awesome to hit this guy.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And even more fun was basically the lore indications for why you become Path of the Beast is you hear you get like this warm fuzzy feral calling inside of you, and it's bestowed upon some kind of powerful spirit, and it was a manticore spirit, and so he actually turned into a manticore when he transformed to all this. And previously to all this, the shaman had actually found a manticore and managed to tame that very royal creature.
Oh my god.
So he now had 2 manticores by his side, and he was the native of this land. You know, he was the emissary supposed to help guide us through the lands and show the people of the power that we possess, and, you know, basically making them subservient and, you know, be in my kingdom, everything's gonna be hunky-dory. With 2 manticores by his side, just being there like lions, and
That's
just
one badass shaman.
Yeah, one badass shaman. So yeah, that's you know, a seemingly innocent, very not creative use of a simple inspiration point turning into something entirely different, thanks to the DM just being very very on point when it comes to drawbacks.
That is fantastic. So essentially, you turned the shaman into the main character of the campaign for 2 sessions.
Yep.
That is awesome. Mine is a bit different since it does concern Shadowrun. So Shadowrun has a system called Edge, and Edge is essentially you using points, or the player using points, to enact something awesome to happen. Same basic idea as inspiration, but players have a set amount of edge that they have per character, and those can only be recovered via Dungeon Master, just fiat, you know, here you go, have your edge back because you did a cool thing, or there were some specific conditions for recovery. And since they have it available at pretty much all times in finite amount, they can do insane stuff with it. And my players, I guess I'm horrible at balancing encounters, because my players just steamroll through everything the book recommended, because we started playing using the beginner set. And I distinctly remember there was an instance where the party of idiots I mentioned previously had to escort a Yakuza's daughter to a thrash metal concert, which was taking place at a huge intersection in Seattle. And there was a bunch of encounters during that, like the Italian mafia wanted to kidnap her. Like one dude wanted to skeeze her away and drug her up. And then the final encounter, if all else failed, was just two huge burly trolls. Trolls come up, they just draw shotguns and they just start blasting.
Yes,
So anyways, I started blasting.
Yeah. But since they are huge trolls, they kind of stand out even in a mosh pit.
Yeah.
And after they were done dealing with whatever preceded the trolls, the sorcerer slash wizard in question that I mentioned, the homeless man, just sort of sees this huge, like, suited, bespectacled trolls shoving their way through the crowd. And one of those trolls whips out a shotgun and he holds it in like an action pose, you know, the Terminator 2 pose with the shotgun pointing straight up.
Yeah.
And he's like, since he knew they were coming, they roll initiative, he's first, and he goes, okay, I'm supercharging my magic. I'm gonna use an edge point to make sure that this hits. Supercharging your magic in Shadowrun essentially means, since you choose, I'm not gonna bore you with the mechanics, but you essentially double your available pool of dice. Since Shadowrun is based on a D6 system, you just roll a whole crap load of 6-sided dice, and there's success conditions. He's like, I'm doubling my pool, I'm hitting my maximum magic, and when you do that, you have the chance to fatigue yourself too much, which will come into play. So what he does is he rolled almost every single goddamn die was a success out of like 12 or 20 or something, just an insane number of dice. So what happens is that troll whips out the shotgun, and through the use of burning an edge point to be able to do that, he stands in some sort of Van Halen metal poster pose with his hands toward the heavens, and like a localized storm opens up, a ginormous bolt of lightning hits the shotgun and just cooks this troll. He gets Thanos'd, man.
Ooh.
He just gets completely dusted, but like he starts yelling as he's electrocuted. The wizard starts yelling as he's doing that out of the sheer strain, and the troll just boom falls into dust. The wizard keeps yelling, and he almost bungles his fatigue roll. So at the apex of the yell, he just collapses and faints on the ground, and the other trolls just right away. Just straight up, nope. That was the best use of inspiration points I have seen.
That's a blast, to blast or not to blast situation.
Yeah.
Nope, not gonna blast here.
Damn.
And I exhausted myself with telling this. Holy crap! So let me throw the next question to, let's say, Felp. When did a player stump you with an action? That can be somebody from your party, I would assume.
Yeah. So I've been building up to this one just a teensy little bit already. Now this goes back to
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, foreshadowing. This goes back to the previous campaign of the little horror story I mentioned, where we have a player that's relatively new to D&D, and he's a good friend of the DM. And he's playing a cleric, so he's the party, healer, but he's playing the storm cleric. So he wants to be a little more, beefier, kind of walking through things, and just hitting stuff because that's cool. So, and this player, for whatever reason, decides to challenge the BBEG during one of its first appearances. When they introduce itself, hey, I exist. Please come find me in like 10 to 15 levels.
Yeah.
And yeah, safe to say it didn't turn out so well. So the party was was in a corrupt temple, looking to purify it. And while searching for the source of the corruption, the BBEG makes a sly appearance or sly entrance, taking the shape of a mad spirit, also looking for the source.
Okay.
The party and the spirit decide to team up, but unbeknownst to the party, the spirit had no intention of helping the party. It was only there to basically let the party do all the work, and oh hey, I'm just gonna be here, act like a mad spirit, like I wanna destroy this because I'm really mad that my temple is cursed and whatnot. And so the BBG, being the clever one, just lets the party guide him to the core, to what he needs.
Mm-hmm.
And once the party found the source, the mad spirit showed its true colors and just demonstrated its unimaginable destructive power, making it painfully clear that we, at the time, level 6 group of ragtag just adventurers, would not stand a chance. And it boldly proclaimed that it would not harm us unless we stood in its way. So with all of this previous knowledge, with the role-playing in the world clearly saying, don't fuck with me, everyone in the party understood that this was not the time to pick a fight. Everyone except the cleric, who decided to single-handedly stand in the mad spirit's way. A few minutes of pleading and one collective party facepalm later, the cleric still wanted to go through with it, thinking they had a chance. I will contribute this to them being relatively new to D&D as a whole. The mad spirit nonchalantly walked up to them and used the 7th level spell, Finger of Death, instantly killing the cleric and turning it into a zombie under their control.
Oh boy.
The mad spirit then opened up a portal and disappeared with our now zombified cleric. The person playing the cleric was rather surprised at the outcome. Something about a holy crusader of light and holy artifacts purge this evil being, turn undead.
God damn.
Yeah, that was certainly an interesting experience. We lost our party healer after that. That player re-rolled into a kleptomaniac pirate ranger, who, for whatever ungodly reason, like even outside of any RP-related drives or like personal traits, would try to just yoink loot from the party that we would evenly distribute anyways. And so it got so bad to the point where we had to just put like a curse on the character, where we give it stuff, you don't take stuff. We give you what you need to be an asset to the party. You're not allowed to take stuff anymore. Just stop it. This is not okay. You're just ruining the experience for everybody else.
Oh god.
So
wow.
Yeah.
That whole person seems like
that cleric
derailment the person.
Previously with their cleric, they'd walked through traps and they'd walked through walls, and they'd willingly, going back to the previous podcast, it's the same cleric I was talking about that willingly accepted a mind flayer's charm.
Oh god.
That's a wonderful spell. It's a wonderful spell because it doesn't only kill the player, it makes them a zombie, and then the party has to deal with that zombie also emotionally afterwards. We talked about last podcast as well, Sven, and I've had one of my players do this as well. So it was a little bit more planned. This seems a little bit more like god complex, but I mean it's a cleric.
Definitely. And later on the holy order that the cleric was part of had to, of course, go and deal with the zombified cleric, which it wasn't great for any of the characters, so like 3-4 levels later, coming into contact with the BBG again and having to deal with this with their party member, even no matter how stupid they were, still a party member. So yeah, that was it's a bit of a sad moment, but also a big what the fuck.
To keep it to the tune of players, since I assume Thor will have many stories of his players stumping him. I managed to derail that 5-year D&D campaign with the only good run of dice I've ever had, where we were on the island or my character was on the island to help alleviate a blockade, I believe. And I remember the blockade was due to a zombie plague of sorts. So we tracked down the source of the zombie plague, to the son of the Duke of the Island, who had turned into essentially Arthas. And the idea was that, at least the Dungeon Master shared as much, like 2 years after the fact, that this was supposed to be one of our first big fights. And he had all this like cool paraphernalia. He could transform his hands into claws. And he was like sitting on an annihilated temple on the ruins of it. And I go up to him, and since my character was very risk averse, like I mentioned, I just started going, hey, man, we know you've been cursed, like, can we help you? And I just start rolling good enough to convince him that it might be a good idea to let us help him, which in turn turned him into our pretty much greatest ally on the island. Now, what I neglected to remember was that the zombie plague was directly tied to that character. So the idea was that we would help him and leave the island. We never left the island in the 5-year duration of the campaign.
Oh no.
Because I saved him and I completely forgot he was the source of it. So yeah, there's a whole world out there which we have not seen because I rolled 15 3 times.
Yeah, that's the ill fate of a DM, I guess.
Speaking of the ill fate of the DM,
Yeah.
take it away, Thor.
One of my players, an old friend of mine, which I've also done a lot of LARPing with in the past, and he's no stranger to roleplay. And let's tell a story about a big Goliath druid called Vogand, who is also called the Naked Stormbringer because he likes to bring storms and he likes to do it naked.
Right, understandable.
Yeah, he's a Goliath. He's very warm in all places, so he wanna be naked.
Right.
And the party has told him that maybe he should not be naked. So it's in a point of time where he has learned that maybe he should not be naked at all times, as well as summoning storms at all times. So we are in a maze, actually in a magical maze created where there is a very, very strong wizard fighting another very, very strong wizard in this maze, and they are just here as a byproduct to survive because they can't fight neither of them. And they have a sword, who is actually an old devil imprisoned in the sword. And there's other devils wanting to get this devil back. And a portal opens very close to them in this maze that they're running in. And a devil is coming out of this portal and already, of course, proclaiming that he is almighty and he's going to take the sword. And this druid rolls very well in initiative and has a spell called Primal Fist. He plays a homebrew archetype to druids that is a primal druid that uses magic that precedes the division of arcane and divine magic, which is my world, is primal magic. Before it was shaped into these two parts of magic. And he tries to slam the devil back into his own realm because he's still in his portal. So he walks up there and he rolls an natural 20 and he slammed the devil back into his own realm and closes the portal behind him. So he's like interrupting him and saying, nope. But that's not actually the stupid thing here.
What?
It's based on wild magic sorcerer. So he has to roll on a table to see what happens because it's a bit wild magic, but on the druid side. So he rolls, and I think it's 1% chance he rolls that he's getting randomly teleported to another plane of existence.
Oh no!
I roll a natural 20 because I have around 20 planes of existence, and he gets teleported into the fire plane. It needs to also be said here that he is, for some reason, I think, feeble-minded by the devil reacting to him slamming him in or so. So he's feeble-minded when he gets there. In the fire plane, also needs to be said here is he's carrying the bag of holding with all the gold and all the equipment they don't use in the party.
No.
And it has a lot of items, and it has, I think, a 10,000 platinum investment by an order who have just made it to the parties for them to build an inquisition, which is part of the plot.
All right.
He's very hot.
Uh-huh.
So he starts stripping down, feeble-minded in the plane of fire.
Uh-huh.
Throwing everything down on the ground, somewhere in the plane of fire.
Oh,
like
no.
items, weapons, bag of holding. And then suddenly, the time is up. 1 minute has gone, and he returns to the maze, naked, with nothing. And feeble-minded, so he will never be able to remember where he was.
Oh my god.
What a combination. What a what a devilish combination.
Oh, boo.
It's so crazy, and they never got the bag of holding back.
I mean, how are they supposed to get it back? It's in the plane of fire. It's probably burnt at this rate.
And they had mind mages trying to penetrate his mind to try and find out where he left it.
No.
The sequence of events is insane. So he punches Satan back to hell, goes to hell a la Doom Eternal, and then just decides to save and quit mentally.
No. He decides to quit without saving.
And he's such a role player, like, so when he drops the bag of holding, it's because he feels like his naked Stormbringer Goliath would completely strip naked in this warmth.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's crazy.
And then he never picks it up.
That's such an amazing, as Svetlin said, it's an amazing sequence of events with an amazing role player that just, my god.
How many plot threads died that day? Like at least 2?
The sword died. I guess the money investment died. The fight with the devil died. So I guess it's at least 3, maybe. And there was some things in the bag of holding they needed, so maybe 4 or 5.
Oh man, that is rough.
It took some time actually for all to recognize this, because he came back and they were like, "Wait, what about the bag of holding?" And I was like, "Well, what about it? It's still there in the fireplace." And then another was, "Oh, it's okay. He remembers where it was." And no, he's feeble-minded.
Real.
Oh.
The realization starts setting in that the people start freaking out.
Is that this segues into the next question fantastically? Is that the stupidest or weirdest experience you've had as a player or DM, or like, is it something else?
I think there's a short one, and it's in Vampire the Masquerade, and it was just so surreal. They were at a rave party in Seattle at an underground rave party called the Kings. It's close to the station there in Seattle, and the rave was going on pretty crazy, and the Nosferatu of the group, who is this disgusting vampire who needs to either go invisible or try to cover himself because his features are revolting to other people, and he might break the masquerade by indicating he's a vampire in just existing. Mm-hmm. But at this rave party, he's completely okay because it's a rave party, so everybody thinks it's a costume.
Yeah.
So he, for once, this Nosferatu vampire, who's an hacker, starts going crazy. And I don't know how, but he becomes enemy with a Teletubby at the rave. One who is dressed as a Teletubby. And they start fighting. And he's pretty strong, so he makes the country western bar move where he slams the Teletubby into the bar and just rolls him across the bar, slamming everything on the ground. And the Teletubby obviously has a gang of other Teletubbies, because that's the sense of the Teletubby. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they start jumping this Nosferatu on top of him, and then everybody else start jumping on top of them because they think it's a rave thing. So everybody's jumping on top of this vampire. It was just such a stupid moment. It was
so dumb.
And the players started jumping up and down, and it was just everybody was laughing. It was so dumb.
Man, that is stupid as shit.
And now I have marked down that they have an enemy called the Teletubby Gang.
Oh no!
Yeah,
that has to be a recurring enemy.
Yeah.
I was just envisioning it like a GTA 5 mod where it's just a whole bunch of poorly textured Teletubbies just sprinting at people.
Oh, no.
With bats. That is ridiculous. Felp,
And
what you got?
Oh, he didn't go into frenzy, I might add. He could have
Yep.
gone into frenzy and it would have been so bad. But he didn't.
Boy.
Yeah.
God, he didn't tear the Teletubbies apart.
I mean, shit. How do I top this?
I know I can't.
Okay, so we have a few things to. Okay. I think this one's good. So the story about the Uganda Knuckles cult.
Please elaborate.
So, in the old campaign, the 3-year one with my wizard, we arrived at a magical island of wonder. And this island was inhabited by native people. They were short, stubby, and red. And this was around the time where the whole Uganda Knuckle thing was a big deal. And my DM loved the meme of just everything being Uganda Knuckles. We even had a Uganda Knuckles slime appearance, where we would just poorly Photoshop a Uganda Knuckle face on a slime and have it as a monster.
No.
But yeah, no, my wizard, also short, stubby, and just clothed in red, managed to, hit a bit of a persuasion roll with a few of the of the natives. Being a wizard with high intelligence, producing some works of wonder using prestidigitation, my favorite spell, by the way. Managed to convince them that my wizard knew the way. And slowly but surely started amassing a cult following of these tiny little red men, people, things, that would follow him around and constantly, chirp on about, clicking the tongue noise and chirping on about, is this the way? Or do you know the way? Or this person knows the way.
So stupid.
And they would constantly just following him around, and he just became this occult leader that would just hold ceremonies and just talk to them and preach to them about, you need to do this, you need to be a good citizen for us here, you need to help us out with our mission, and that's to further your goal in life of this is the way for you, walk this path, the young warriors, yada yada. And we just had we had the Uganda Knuckles warriors, we had the mages, we had the rogues, we had every single class just round up in an army, and we just swept the entire island, amassing more and more of these, and then we used all of these to just wage, imagine a CGI Marvel war with a bunch of disposable characters running at each other. And that was basically the climax of the of that little arc.
You guys both just described fever dreams.
Yeah, that was probably the stupidest and weirdest experience that I've had with this. And that's not mentioning the blow it out your ass parasites, which is just juvenile to the point of no return.
Save it for next time.
Yeah.
God. Mine, I cannot beat those. Mine is an escalating series of just unfortunate happenstances. In the first campaign I played, the one from 2012, I played a dwarf cleric, and the party was a 2.5 meter tall Slavic fighter, a ranger, a half-elven ranger who just loved nature, and a sorcerer who was definitely not a wizard. He hated wizards, who was very obsessed with wealth and his image. And here we go. We need to go to an island to get to a wizarding competition where we were gonna sneak the sorcerer in as a wizard.
Yes.
And the first hurdle, which we didn't even anticipate being a hurdle, was getting a boat. We go to a boat rental shop and we just start talking to the nice old man. And the GM had prepared this whole speech, and we're playing in Bulgarian, so it's extra cringe. We go into a very long. He goes into a very long diatribe, and at one point, the fighter was like, "I'm in the boat and I'm going," and the rest of us are like, "Oh, okay." We just awkwardly shuffle onto the boat, and the boat proprietor, still mid sentence, he just keeps talking. We keep walking. It's like an Oblivion NPC conversation where he just sort of tracks us with his full body as we're just awkwardly shuffling onto the boat. And through some misunderstanding, we're just departing, we're leaving. And the GM goes, "Okay, what about his payment?" We're like, I don't care. You know what? Half the payment. Here you go. And we chuck him half the payment, and we're loaded, by the way. We chuck him half the amount for the boat, and we just keep going. And on the way, the GM's like, well, are you guys gonna discuss something? We get into a deep ethical discussion on the so dumb on the morality of paying him only half the price, on the economics of the free market in this world.
Oh.
We just keep going, and we reach the conclusion of, yeah, we're innocent. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna like pay the rest when we get back. It's fine. We don't care. And the sorcerer was the biggest proponent of this, by the way. So as we reach the dock on the island on the other side after an hour's time, there is just a regiment of guards waiting for us.
Oh no.
Since through like some knowledge we had found out after the fact that the boat proprietor was just this revered local figure and everybody loved him. So like he called the cops.
Oh no.
The cops are sitting there, and mid-sentence, the sorcerer, as he's explaining that we're innocent, he swan dives into the water and starts swimming away while doing stealth checks. So he's like swimming with half his body, trying to be as stealthy as possible. He's gone. The rest of us get to the dock, and he's willing to throw us a bone. And the GM goes like, we understand you're revered local heroes in your own right. We're gonna give you a pass. Just give us half the money and you're gonna be fine. And the fighter unsheathes his massive Zweihander. Embeds it into the dog and goes, make us.
Oh
no.
So immediately,
don't do that.
And this is after I like rolled really decent on diplomacy, right? So the cops immediately like swarm us. They pin us down. They start like reading us our Miranda rights, essentially. At that point, the sorcerer is already like pretty much left. But he's like, okay, it's the party. He comes back. He conjures this huge sandstorm as like the ranger who has massive troubles with authority keeps antagonizing the cops, right? And he's just starting to slowly calm down, but he's still really pissed off. And the sorcerer emerges, casts a sandstorm, and he just starts emerging out of it, trying to smooth everything over, because he's a sorcerer, charisma, right? He just starts talking like, oh, gentlemen, there's been a huge misunderstanding. At that point, the ranger wiggles out, produces a dagger, and stabs a cop in the hand.
Oh no.
Goes to leave, rolls a natural 1, gets immediately clotheslined by another cop, and we're all in jail immediately. That is stupid.
No de-escalation whatsoever.
Yikes.
We tried 3 times to de-escalate, including with a magic, beautiful sandstorm. Nothing. That's the dumbest thing I've experienced.
Oh my god! Somebody stopping it. I love the fighter moment with the sword.
I don't know why he did it. It wasn't even a character. He just hates cops IRL, I guess. And just nope.
Oh,
nothing to that.
It's like, yeah, the best decision to make when, we're 100% gonna be in the slammer if we don't smooth this over. Yeah, just stab the cop in the hand. Everything will be fine. I'll get out, no worries. Even if he did get out.
When players are not in sync.
Yeah. That is, players are working against each other. That's a fun one.
Yeah.
Sven, do we have, how much time do we have? Can I add a quick one?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so we had an artificer one last time we played Curse of Strahd, this Dracula-like story, and they fought a very strong Fey creature called Baba Yaga. Don't fight Feys, guys. It's dangerous. And essentially, he was the last one to give her the final blow, so she died, and he was cursed. And he was slowly turning into a Fomorian, which is a pink giant in D&D, and he was slowly turning into that because he killed her. But they couldn't find out what it was, and it was turning him pink. So they rolled some medicine checks and elaborated that it was probably Fey herpes that he had gotten from her. And that became a whole selling point in the story, that they had to save the artificer from Fey herpes.
No.
Oh no.
And Strahd, the Dracula of the story, it became this artificer actually betrayed his party in the end because this Dracula person had promised him a vial of his blood, which would break the Fey herpes if he was to betray the party. And he was healed, by the way.
Oh,
And this
no.
still is a story that's passed on in my groups about the Fey herpes.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
Fey herpes to anything and just make it dumb.
When low rolls just contribute to the funniest and stupidest shit that ever happens.
Oh yeah,
it's
I
great.
have one for next time that is just ridiculous and is very indicative of how bad I rolled during that 5-year campaign with Callus. But for now, let us wrap this up with the final question of what is the most brilliant / surprising experience you have had as a player or a DM in any game?
Yeah, this probably this most definitely ties into how well my DM treats the rule of cool and how much he just goes with things that, okay, this makes sense. So we're in this, we're gonna fight this dragon boss. It's in the prelude to actually finding the boss and fighting the boss. We encounter a bunch of these, what are they called? The dragonlings, the
Kobolds?
Yeah, no, not kobolds. Dragonborn, but they're actually still controlled by the dragon.
Okay.
And we need to push our way past, right? And so the wizard that I'm playing uses just this gust of wind spell, right? It's seemingly harmless, just a strength check to push people away. But with the rule of cool, we're using that thing in a 7th level spell slot. And
What?
I mean, that's like that's not in any rules, but it's a rule of cool, right?
It's awesome.
It's awesome. And so he's just standing like Moses parting the seas, but just he's blasting this gust of wind. It's not even wind at this point. It's just this turbulent current of a jet-powered engine. It's just blasting it, opening up a path, just people flying everywhere, straight to the dragon's lair. And we're just walking, like he was an evocation wizard, so he could choose to create these pockets of safety, so the party were immune to the effects of this, strong gust of wind.
Nice.
And so we just walked through this while we're seeing, like you're going in an aquarium tunnel, like underwater, just seeing everybody flying around. And then we get to the dragon, and we fast forward to about the middle of the fight, where the dragon is about to transition into a new phase. And it's the desperation phase. The dragon's building air. It's flying straight up. We're in a volcano, right? So it's flying straight up, just going further and further. And it we have 3 turns to prepare, right? Or was it 2? Whatever. We have just not enough turns for our bard to cast the hut, the tiny hut or whatever it's called. We have just it's just on the brink of it that we're not going to have enough time to get it out. And so right before we land, we're just all running around trying to find cover somewhere because we're going to get impacted. We're going to get annihilated like the goddamn dinosaurs, and we're in a volcano. This thing's definitely going to erupt. I look in my spell book, and I'm seeing my favorite spell, my favorite Swiss Army knife, Wall of Force, 5th level.
Yes.
That thing is so good because it does not let anything go through it. And it can be so thin and so large. You have, 10 by 10 foot plates that you can just put out and build out like Lego. And so I made and it's invisible, right? You can't see it. So I made this invisible ceiling over us. So when the dragon came crashing down, it crashed into the wall of force and just it would have halved its own HP regardless, but we weren't affected this time. So we just see this dragon just face planting, crashing into an invisible wall right above us. It's like you see in comedy movies where people like walk into glass doors, right, or walk into just glass windows, and their face gets all squished up. We just see that looking up, the dragon coming down, and just gets absolutely squished.
I'm envisioning an Evangelion moment more so than that, where you just cast an AT field, this deep anime knowledge, just boom, rainbow shockwave.
Yep.
So
And
sick.
That just nullified the entire big desperation nuke attack that were supposed to at least take out 2 party members.
Nice.
Just with the clever use of the Swiss Army knife that is Wall of Force.
Nice. Thor, what you got?
Yeah, my story begins with a bard, and it's also in the Curse of Strahd Dracula story. And this bard was very new to D&D, and he was a player at the time that I recruited from my university at the time. And he slowly over the time, and bard is an amazing class, he slowly over the time learned the power of stories and the power that a bard has. Because the power that a bard has is actually incredible, but it's very indirect in the class. It's the power of creation, and he just slowly recognized that he could weave stories and he could roleplay, and it was amazing to see this player just learning D&D and how to do it. But he did so many amazing things with it, and he started giving himself all these titles. And in this land, you go through all these superstitious cities, and it's dark Middle Age and dark fantasy, and he was like, then he was named the Invisible Bard because he went invisible whenever there was trouble. He faced a big toad in the Underdark, which called itself the Bucklord. And it was like, in the first encounter, it was like, I am the Bucklord. And he just went forward and said, no, I'm the Bucklord.
Oh, no.
And the Bucklord was like, what? and they killed him, and he took the title. And he killed an evil henchman called Strasny, and he ran in and took his head at the last moment of the fight, and he called himself the Bane of Strasny. And he just became this bard with all these titles, traveling through the lands. And he and whenever they came to a city, they were hearing stories from the streets about, oh, have you heard about this party with this bard? He's the magical leader, but he's invisible, you can't see him. And the fighter and the paladin and the wizard was so like, no, but the bard does nothing. We are the true heroes of the party. Why does everybody think the bard is the leader of the party? And it ended with him taking a title he should not have taken, which was the Scourge of Mankind. It's bad in itself, right? Uh-oh. It's something he had heard, and he read it in a book, and he was like, I am the Scourge of Mankind. And this bard is adopted by a gnome. He's never known his parents. And he finds out in the ending of the story that the Scourge of the Mankind is a title for the right-hand vampire of the evil bad guy who killed his parents.
Ooh,
so he runs around at the end, having given himself a title of the creature that killed his parents. It was just an amazing closure to this. So he learned his lesson, but amazing bard.
That is so cool. Just the gradual amassing of history to a character is one of my favorite things, which ties into my story. My story is a crescendo moment of all of this. So the previous podcast, I talked a bit about Logan, our Witcher, functionally a warlock character, who turned into one of my favorite things of the campaign. Because, again, me and the player have such good chemistry, and we just constantly sat next to each other and bantered back and forth, or in and out of the game, ironclad bond. And I remember there was an instance where we were in a dimension where he had shrugged his warlock class to become a pseudo-paladin, if I remember correctly. But his oath still bound him to his demon lord master. And we finally track him down, we get thrown into his dimension, and I distinctly remember he pushed us into the portal before my character considered us to be ready, and I just went off on him, and it was just a very real moment of anger. And it turned out to be the last thing I would say to him in character, since we get to the demon lord, we start fighting him, and the demon lord just goes, "Die, Logan. Power word kill."
Yeah. No.
He drops dead. And it was a like true character death, and I didn't realize it at the time in character. And this was an amazing moment in its own right. This is where the brilliant part comes in, where our our rogue, who is a Khajiit essentially, he had in his back pocket for years a potion of demon slaying. And so we had a hand signal, which would denote essentially what in Marvel is called a speedball special, where I would use my shield as a platform, launch him whenever he wanted to go, and he would do a cool thing with the momentum. So he gives me the hand signal, I position myself, he jumps off my shield, and at the apex of his jump, he throws the potion down the demon's throat, and the demon collapses dead. Dead silence. We're all high-fiving, and then I see Logan's corpse, and in probably one of my finest moments of role-playing, I stand up, and I think I told Thor this, I start yelling at the cleric to bring him back, because I don't understand it. Logan's quote-unquote died before, right? So I would expect him to be revived, and I went through, halfway through that, it turned very real again, and I almost started crying, just yelling for him to bring my friend back, and him just yelling back that he absolutely could not. And yeah, that's where the session ended. With the horrifying realization that my friend is dead. And it's still one of the most powerful emotions I've felt in my life.
Damn, that's rough.
And then the dead, that's so sad. It's so deep.
Damn, alright. I mean, that's
powerful.
D&D is sometimes it's so flimsy where you can just bounce back and forth between alive and dead, as we discussed in the opening of the podcast. And then this, where it's like, yeah, no more retries, no more, no more second lives, no more of that. It's just, you fucked up, now live with the consequences.
And it's a very poignant note to end on. If anybody is telling you that D&D is a weird game for babies and you should not waste your time on this, consider what I just told you, or what we just told you over this hour and a half. D&D can lead to some of the best experiences of your life, bar none. And that is the podcast. Slightly serious and somber note to end on, but I figured the gravitas, it brought what itself necessitated this. So thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, Felp and Thor, for taking the time to nerd out with me for this prolonged period of time. This was fantastic. And I very much hope that we can do more of these, as well as an upcoming Ember Sword RPG that we may or may not start workshopping in the near future, but that is all to come. So thank you everybody, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey you made it to the end. Congratulations! That must mean you like us enough to want more, right? Well, good news! We're all over the internet. Go to embersword.com and subscribe to our newsletter for a chance to play the game early, as well as the latest interesting tidbits on the game and the team. Join our lovely Discord community over at discord.gg/embersword. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at PlayEmbersword for regular updates on what we're up to. And remember the basics. Drink water, be kind to each other, and spread the word about Ember Sword.